Oh, here we go. We are live. About stream, share your screen with your audience, yada yada yada. Okay. So I'm just doing this to get the feel for how this stuff works. The lay of the land, as they say. The crookedness of everything is really bugging me here. I need to figure out how to center. I think it's just this hat, honestly. Yeah, it's just the hat. Excuse me. I guess I shouldn't do that on live. So I'm going to go over a couple articles. Let's see if I can share the article at the same time. Okie dokie. I don't know if I'm... So since I'm off that page... yeah, like I have absolutely no clue how this works. I guess I could have watched some videos on it first. Manage what? What is this? Manage... I don't need to manage nothing. Send feedback? No. All right, let's see. Let's see here. I'm just going to put that over there so I can see. Excuse me. It is fall around here in the Pacific Northwest, so now I am sick for the first time this year, which is fantastic. Woke up this weekend with a little bit of a sore throat. I thought it was just from I was puffing on some vape bars this weekend, which I don't usually do, so I thought that's what the cause was. And then yesterday, started feeling a little bit tired and a little bit of fatigue. And then I woke up today or last night with a great deal of pressure in my head, nostrils blowing out the good old snot rockets. Oh my lantern. Hell no. Batman. I'm pretty sure I got a bot just trying to scam me or something. Okay, dokie. Here we go. What was I doing? Oh, yeah. I want to share my screen with you, but I want to share this article, Secure Access Network News, I believe it's called. Straight Arrow News, if in case you guys haven't heard about it. It claims to be unbiased straight facts. Take what you will from that. I do like it because hopefully you can make this out from there. Sources. Let's see. Sources. Summary. Yeah, it's not showing it on this one. Full story. Why this story? My sources. Full story. Full story. There we go. Hey, now. A few more. Usually it'll tell you. See, so it gives you an idea who's covering what. See, so the red is the Republicans, Democrats, and then you got yellow as center. So, like the Jeffries says Mamdani is not the future of the Democrat Party. Only 19% of the left have covered that, and 75% right coverage. Very, very small percentage of centered coverage, which would be unbiased coverage. Anywho, back to the story I wanted to share. Where is it? What was it? Oh, I forgot. I tend to do that. I get scatterbrained a lot, but it's also because it was a rough weekend. I went out and had some fun for the Halloween holiday. You know what I'm saying? You got. I wonder if you guys can even hear me or understand me. Straight Arrow News. Here it is. Okay. So let's try it. I'm going to try this real quick. Share screen. Where was that? Pop out dashboard. Share your screen. Yes, share. What the? Okay, there we go. Cool. Does that work if I have it over here? Cool. Okay. Now I got the hang of this. Look it up. Oh yeah. The article was Trump support come on. Trump administration, blah, blah, blah. Trump targets, blah, 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 blah. Trump administration. Where is it? News, media miss. Trump voters unhappy with Trump job. Bro, this was like straight out something I just read this morning. So the fact that it's not on here now was a little suspicious. Well, hell. Fine. Let's just find something. I'm sharing this tab. Yeah, I know that. View tab studio, blah, blah, blah. YouTube. No, I got this tab right here, so I don't need to do all that. Let's go straight to Straight Arrow News. And talk about it, eh? Okay, first off, I just want to say, yes, I voted for Trump. I very much rather have had him than Kamala in there. I know everybody's all like, greater of two evils, whatever. The fact of the matter is, yeah, until the rest of the world or the rest of the country wants to get on the page of, okay, well, how about we just postpone the entire election, postpone everything, stop everything, slow down, right? Because what's happening is that we're all being forced into this rat race where they can do whatever they want because this news cycle, because people's attention span, because people have to pay bills, right? You got to pay your rent. You got to go to work. You got to feed your family. Well, if we all were able to slow down and smell the roses a little bit, we would be able to see things a little bit more clearer. You know what I'm saying? And I think that, in 2016, yeah, I don't swallow my fucking Zen spit, so sue me. But anywho, just try not to use all them filler words. What was I getting at here? Okay, yeah, in 2016, I didn't support neither candidate, neither Hillary nor Trump when he first ran. And the reason being is because when you go back and you listen to quality leaders, true, heartfelt, grit of the salt of the earth, true grit leaders, um, they are just so much more inspiring. You could listen to those people and say, "That's a smart guy. I would follow him." You know, the way they articulated themselves, it wasn't this really rudimentary or elementary articulation. It was sophistication, but in a simplistic form. You understood what he was saying, even though you didn't understand all the words. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might not have understood all of the entire definition or have a complete understanding of a word, but you understand the way he used it made sense, right? You understood what he was talking about. Sometimes you see these guys today and you just can't, I'm like, what the are you talking about? Anyways, so I didn't support neither one of them. I did become a Trump supporter later on because his first run for office was good. I thought that was good. I made money. I was making money. I was saving money as I was spending money. You know what I mean? I was going on weekend trips every weekend, going out to eat. And there was work. There was lots of work. So that was fantastic. I was having a good old time until the COVID hit, of course. But that's neither here nor there. Anyways, my whole point being is that you can support somebody and change, and you can. No, my whole point was the whole slowing down and smell the roses. That's right. Um, we need quality candidates. This thing that politicians do where they run these campaigns and they just do what they think or what they're told is going to be acceptable politically. Well, obviously Trump didn't do that, right? He threw that out with the with the bathwater, and everybody loved it. Well, not everybody, but most people, most hardworking Americans. And that was evident that that most people can't stand political correctness. They can't stand this. And I'll be honest, I'm getting to the point where I can't stand listening to Trump anymore because all he's doing is, oh, this is the greatest you've ever seen. This is going to be the greatest you ever seen. We are the best of the best. Like, come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Your shit stinks too, okay? Sometimes you fail. Admit it. This idea of not admitting failure is weird. It's totally disconnected from real life and reality, of which should be the same thing. So, anywho, so I'm not sure how well this looks like this is streaming. Okay. Anyhow, let's see. 60 Minutes cut part of Trump's response on Bitcoin billionaire's pardon. Oh, here's something better yet I want to share with you. Because, well, first let's go into this, and then that'll lead into the thing that I want to share with you folks. Okay. Why the story matters. Shut up. Full story. President Donald Trump has agreed to comply with court orders to partially fund the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Food benefits, commonly called SNAP. Back in the day, it was called TANF, I believe. When I was a child, I'm come from a poor family, so yeah, my family has been on them for some years. I actually got away from having to be on them for some time, and then now I am back on them because I am out of work because Washington is crap. Or I've applied for like 52 jobs in the last 2 months. Haven't heard a word back from anybody. And I have tons of experience in construction, in production, industrial. Yeah, so there's that. Oh, yeah, and the unemployment's not going through. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'm sure they're blaming it on federal funding cuts, which doesn't make sense because these programs should not be federally funded. They should be state funded. Anyways, overall, the number of Americans enrolled in the program has consistently gone up each decade, with some fluctuations at times. And that's an increase in people's reliance on government, or rather than being self-sufficient, which is completely detrimental to progress. It's completely disconnected from what true progress is and requires. The first American food stamp program launched on May 16th, 1939, with Mabel McFiggin of Rochester, New York, becoming the first recipient. Over the next 4 years, the first program would help 20 million in nearly half the counties in the country. The timing coincides with the end of the Great Depression and the start of World War II. At the same time, farms in the U.S. were very productive and grew in excess of food. In 1930s, they had a problem of surplus commodities because of the Depression and the decline in demand for food. Tracy Roof, an associate professor of political science at the University of Richmond, who's currently working on a book about the political history of food stamps, told Straight Arrow News. Oh yeah, my bad. I'm getting better at reading things out loud, so this is going to be good for me. But you had starving people, and so there was this outrage when they slaughtered a bunch of hogs and essentially burned meat and let it go to waste, which I heard not too long ago that they were doing that recently, where they were saying they were telling farmers they had to kill off, basically some of their livestock or a percentage of their livestock. I don't know how true that is. I'll have to look into it, but you had certain people. So there was an outrage of slaughtered hogs, essentially burned meat and let it go to waste, and it led to a political push to create some kind of way to distribute that food to people in need. Yeah, I probably shouldn't take a chew in when I do this, huh? Whatever. This is a whole test run, so um, the that program used color-coded stamps. For every $1 worth of orange stamps purchased, 50 cents worth of blue stamps were given. Orange stamps could be used to purchase any food, similar to the SNAP program today. Blue stamps could only be used to purchase from the surplus. It was this very popular program because it was a very popular program because it reserved a sense of decency. Christopher Bozo, hopefully that's how you say his name, author of Why SNAP Works, a political history and defense of the food stamp program, told Straight Arrow News the people were not standing in that line for a box of food. They were actively consumers and they had some choice. That program ended. Uh, that program that program came to an end in 1943 since the conditions that brought the program into being, unmarketable food surpluses and widespread unemployment, no longer existed, according to the USDA website. Birth of the modern food stamps. Program of American recognize or The program as Americans recognize it today began in 1959 when Congress authorized the Secretary of Agriculture to operate a food stamp system through 1962. However, former President Dwight D. Eisenhower never used that authority to launch a program. His successor, John F. Kennedy, Democrat, which I very much obviously I wasn't alive, but John F. Kennedy is one of the leaders that I admire for his articulation of ideas and thoughts and his I guess you could say his articulation and thoughts rooted in I don't know what I'm trying to say there. I lost it. Anyways, he used it immediately and made it a big part of his campaign, especially during stops in Appalachia. You have pockets of real poverty and need in Appalachia, in particular the South and Delta and in other areas, Bozo said. Kennedy's first executive order, issued upon taking office in 1961, called for expanded food distribution. Less than 2 weeks after his inauguration, he announced the launch of food stamps pilot program. It turned out to be very successful, and was kind of based on the model we have today. Ruth said you got an amount of, by the way, in case, nobody's watching right now, but if you do watch this and you hear something in the background, that's my little space heater. Leave a comment and tell me I'm a jackass or I need to get my shit together. One of the two. I don't give a fuck. So it turned out to be very successful and was kind of based on the model we have today. Ruth said, you got an amount of food stamps that were able to go into a store and purchase food. Unlike the Great Depression era program, it didn't have to be surplus commodities. That program then became permanent under Lyndon B. Johnson, Kennedy's successor, with the passage of the Food Stamps Act of 1964. Those days, you would buy, say, $10 worth of food stamps. Bozo said, you would get another $44 in free food stamps. So if it's effectively a 40% discount, and you would take your food stamps to the store and use them. So you take your food stamps to the store and use them. Where am I at here? And use them as currency to buy food. Big changes to food stamps. The food stamp program continued to expand for the next several decades under presidents like Richard Nixon and Jimmy Carter. The latter's Food Stamp Act of 1977 eliminated the requirement for recipients to purchase food stamps. Ronald Reagan made significant reforms to the food stamp program, which reduced the amount of funding allocated. The Food Stamp Act of 1985 made it more difficult to qualify for food stamp or for food assistance, requiring job searching, and training as qualifications, a decision that sparked protest as it occurred during a recession, which I believe that's a good thing, right? I mean, you shouldn't just be getting a free ride your whole life. You should be working to get off of food stamps, not just to be depending on them your entire life, which is very much the problem we have today. Okay, so as it occurred during a recession, Reagan essentially throws in the towel on food stamps as time goes on, and basically comes to agree with Congress about stabilizing the food stamp program, Bozo said. And you see a slow growth again in enrollment over the 1980s. The Reagan years also brought about Electronic Benefits Transfer, or EBT. The Hunger Prevention Act of 1988 opened up the pilot programs that would eventually allow recipients to receive their benefits on a debit card instead of paper coupons. Now, sorry, my eyes are getting a little burny. I heard something I was going to say, but I forgot. Lost it. Bill Clinton signed a dramatic welfare reform bill in 1996 that had a large impact on the food stamp program. It caused a lot of changes. It caused a lot of changes at the state level in the way they administered welfare, Roof said. And it also led to a lot of families falling off of food stamps. Those changes brought more disqualification provisions, time limits on how long beneficiaries could receive food stamps, and made most legal immigrants ineligible for the program. Former Republican Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, Newt Gingrich proposed consolidating all nutrition programs into a block grant to states. And here's the problem right here. Okay, this is what I was going to point out earlier. Okay, right here. Consolidating all nutrition programs into a block grant. Anytime you have this wide or blanket coverage of things, it's going to be susceptible to some kind of corruption. On top of that, again, reliance on the federal government. We're a nation of sovereign territories in a union. That's why it is called the United States of America. It is not called just America, right? It's called USA, United States of America. That is because we are each state is a sovereign territory. So, therefore, each state should be self-sufficient. And if each state is not self-sufficient, then you have a deficit. Because you're basically in a loop, right? You're paying taxes into a big pot and then dispersing it where you think is necessary. Kind of. I'm not sure if that's the right way to explain that, but I'll better refine that later on. Okay, so block grant, a move his fellow Republicans deemed a step too far. I would agree. Americans may be ideologically opposed to welfare in some abstract sense, but they also don't want to see their fellow Americans go hungry, Bozo said. So food stamps have always enjoyed a fair bit of bipartisan support over the years. Yeah, so food stamps is a socialist program, right? Because it is based on social equity, right? And social social help. You know what I mean? It's based off of community, basically, which is a social idea. Uh, and I would say, yeah, most people are willing to help people, but you give them an inch and they take a mile, and once they take a mile, you don't want to help nobody, right? I mean, we've all been taken advantage of, and we're all being taken advantage of right now. So, for instance, the government doesn't own the land. The people are supposed to own the land, right? So why can't I just go out to a piece of land, a territory, and become self-sufficient? Because the government doesn't want you self-sufficient. The government wants you dependent. So that way it can take wealth from the people that are working, which is a contemporary form of voluntary slavery, if you think about it. Okay, I know some people might be like, oh, but really it is. Nobody, like 90% of people don't want to be doing the jobs they're doing. They only do it because they need to make money. You know what I'm saying? If I had my choice, I mean, it all revolves around money at the base level of it, which is, as they say, the root of all evil. My father hates when I say, as they say. Who's they? The proverbial they. Anyways, George W. Bush welcomed illegal immigrants back to the program with the passage of the Farm Securities and Rural Investments Act, or Investment Act of 2002. 6 years later, Bush officially named the program as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, modern SNAP program. Then came the Great Recession in 2008. The Great Recession hit and the numbers really swelled, Ruth said. That would be, yeah. The Great Recession. I remember, who was his name? There was a rapper that made a song called The Recession. Interesting. I don't know. It probably had nothing to do with what I'm talking about. But anyways. Let's see. Gingrich called former President Barack Obama the food stamp president, although Obama did not make major changes to the program other than an increase in benefits towards the end of the Great Recession. Allotments increased again during Trump's first term when the COVID-19 pandemic struck and governors across the country ordered non-essential workers to stay home and many businesses temporarily shut down. SNAP benefits went up 40% after Trump signed the 2020 Families First Coronavirus Response Act, which temporarily expanded eligibility. Enrollment went up, Roof said. It never went as high as it had been during the Great Recession, but the size of benefits grew considerably. Those enhanced benefits have since come to an end. Former President Joe Biden's biggest change came in an increase in payments to recipients after having the USDA reevaluate the plan. Big changes are coming once again following Trump's budget bill earlier this year. Since Kennedy's program began, the federal government has borne borne most of the financial burden of food stamps, with states only paying for administrative costs, of which they inflate drastically. Let's see, what's this part? That changes. That changes with the reforms in Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act. It's going to start shifting some of the cost back to the states. That is, as much as people would hate to say it, that is the right way to do it. The states are the ones that should be running these programs. The states are the ones that should be funding these programs. If they cannot fund these programs, then they should be looking to cut or make efficient or more efficient their budget. The states are not prepared to absorb those costs. No shit. Because they're reliant on the federal government and they don't care about efficiency. They care about what? Money. You know, there's a very huge lack of insight and oversight into these programs as far as where money goes, who's getting it, how much are these people that are in these administrative positions, how much are they being paid? You know, how much money do you need to make just because you help somebody on a computer or on a phone to sign up for food stamps? You know what I mean? We're supposed to be adults, right? Why can't you figure it out? Because you don't want to, because you don't want to go through the headache of it. Well, guess what? Life's not fucking rainbows and sunshine. Sometimes there's storms. Sometimes you have to go through a shitty day to make it through to the next day, to the sunshine. States will soon be required to pay 75% of administrative cost and states. So hold on. If this just said big changes are coming once again since the government was born most of the financial burden, with states only paying for administrative cost. But yet this is saying states will soon be required to pay 75% of administrative costs. So that would tell me that that statement there is false. They weren't paying for administrative costs. If they're going to be required to pay for 75% administrative costs, how much were they paying before that? How much of it was state funded before that? You know what I'm saying? Anyways, in states with high effort rates or error rates may be subject to higher payments. Error rates are not the same as fraud. They include things like reporting errors or paperwork mistakes. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Oh no, you're blowing his nose. That's gross. Guess what? We're all fucking human, okay? You guys blow your nose too. Hopefully. Hopefully you don't just suck that shit in and swallow it. States soon be blah, areas paper mistakes. You're going to see a lot of states, I bet, basically say, well, this isn't worth it to us. Yeah, see? Yeah, it's not worth it to us. We're not getting rental funding for it, so we're just going to cut it. We're not going to try and balance our budget better. We're not going to try and cut waste. We're not going to try and make our budget more efficient. We're just going to cut the program. Buzzo said the states may cut back on their efforts to enroll people who are otherwise eligible or may decide to opt out entirely because it's not required that states participate. Whatever direction food stamps take moving forward, both experts Sans Secure Access News spoke to agreed that the reason we have the program in the first place won't be going anywhere. What? Whatever direction the food stamps taking food stamps take moving forward. Both experts Secure Access News spoke to agreed that the reason we have the program in the first place won't be going anywhere. That makes no fucking sense. Please tell me that makes no sense to you, because that sentence makes no sense to me. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't know. But we are going to have people in need, Roof said, and everybody kind of thinks oftentimes that food banks can pick up that need, but they just do not. They're not equipped. I think this points out a clear lack of community involvement and community support. Yes, there's tons of programs out there in communities and whatnot. Yet at the same time, very few people know about these things. Very few. Very rarely are they widely advertised. You see more advertisements for medicine and insurance than you do for any kind of community help. Why is that not a thing? Why is there not advertisements for, hey, if you need help with this, call this number? That should be more prevalent than prescription advertisements and insurance advertisements, which I'm not a fan of insurance. I know some people are. I understand why. I get it. But if you think about it, at the root of it, insurance is taking money from somebody, right? Putting it in a giant pot and then redistributing it as needed. Well, how about the person that paid into the insurance their entire life and never used it? Where does that money go? They don't get that money back. Why didn't they just put that into an account, right? Like a Roth or an IRA or whatever, and save that money for themselves? I think the problem here is financial literacy or financial can't think of the word I'm looking for, but anyways. So this basically, this program has been, as the article said, has been supported by both parties. And there's a reason for that. Just like both parties are not going to, they're not going to vote on term limits, right? Because then that would put them out, so to speak. Let's see, where's my is it government data analysis? No. Hold. Looking for it. I'm not that organized. My bad. I need to get better organized. Oh my god. Right here, 270 historical U.S. presidential elections from 1789 to 2020. It's called the 270 to Win program. Okay. Election filter. Instantly see when state or / party combinations have occurred through history. What? Let's see what this is. Select one or more states and Washington, and or election and or an election winner. The historical map that remain visible below will be anytime that combination has occurred. Okay. So for my state, Washington, look at that. Republican 1900 was the last election. So you're telling me for 125 years it's been Democrat? Is that what this is saying? Let's go winner of election, Washington. That doesn't make sense. This goes to 1976. All right. Well, I don't know what this close that. That's dumb. Let's refresh this. Go back to the whole thing. So, the reason why I wanted to show you this, see how the political ideologies have shifted over the years, right? So let's go to 1789. George Washington, which was a Federalist. Okay. So you had a federal government. Okay. You had independent, Federalist, and Federalist. Interesting, right? No such thing or Democrat or Republican there. Go back. Again, you see the green is Federalist. Then you have the rise of, George Clinton. I wonder if Bill Clinton is related to George Clinton. Wouldn't that be weird? A family in government since 1792. Wow. Or at least to some extent. Maybe not the entire time, but you know what I'm saying. If you don't, then fuck off. Just kidding. Okay, let's go back. Let's see. Wait, so now, all right, now we're seeing the introduction of John Adams won. He was a very few states, right? All these were not here yet. We had not owned these territories. Then you saw the rise of Democratic Republican. Democratic Republican. Which Democratic Republican almost. So my point was that right there. It was once called Democrat. And that is because they're the same thing. One is a process, and the other is the fundamental ideology, right? Let's look that up real quick. Is this going to show this new window? Share this tab instead. Okay. And now I'm going to look it up on. I'm going to pull out my 1960 whatever standard dictionary, international edition dictionary. Okay. Which, where is that other one? Where is it? Oh, there it is. All right, so I got those out. Whew, hold on. Getting warm in here. All right. So this will kind of give you a perspective as far as how definitions of things change and how they change definitions over time, because people don't have long-term memory. Well, they do, but most people have short attention spans. You know what I'm saying? Like, how come nobody's talking about the election problems anymore, or the election machines, or the voter rolls? Huh? How come that's not a big story anymore? That should be still top of the list until it's fixed. It's not fixed. So what's really happening? And I would say that that's a reason why Trump is losing support. Definition of Republican or republic. Because the Republican describes a person. Republic is the actual word. A republic is a form of government, okay, a form of government in which the supreme power rests in the body of citizens entitled to vote and is exercised by representatives chosen directly or indirectly by them. Okay? You see that? All right. The term originates from the Latin res publico or res publica, meaning public thing or public affair, signifying a state governed in the interests of the general public rather than a monarch or hereditary ruler. In modern usage, a republic typically refers to a state where the head of government is not a monarch, often a president, and power is derived from the consent of the governed rather than hereditary or divine right. While republics are often representative democracies, the term emphasizes the structure of governance. Okay. So that's how I would say it's the structure of governance where power is held by elected officials on behalf of the people rather than the method of decision making. Okay. Democracy. Democracy is a system of government in which supreme power is vested in the people and exercised directly by them or through elected representatives in periodic free elections. I mean, to me, that sounds like the same thing, but okay. The term originates from the Greek word demos, the people, and kratos, power or ruler, meaning rule by the people. It can take various forms, including direct democracy, where citizens vote on decisions themselves, and representative democracy, where they elect officials to make decisions on their behalf. Okay, so there's the key difference there. I just want to point that out. That is the key difference there. It can take various forms, including direct democracy, where citizens vote on decisions themselves. So that means every vote that Congress or every law that Congress passes should be voted, in that sense, should be voted on by the people. Right? Or am I not seeing, or am I misconstruing something here? I don't know. Tell me if I'm wrong. Including direct democracy, uh, where it can include where representative democracy and representative democracy. Okay, which that's what I think our current Democratic Party would be, is a representative democracy because because this where they elect officials to make decisions on their behalf. Yeah, and I believe that's why it was correctly labeled Democratic Republican. Okay, because they're kind of the same thing, and you need, if you think about it, to have every law that's passed voted on by the people would be pretty strenuous. Um, so representative democracy, where they elect officials to make decisions on their behalf, is very much what we have today. Modern democracies emphasize citizen participation, pluralism, and the rule of law. But I would say, add to that these are only effective and efficient when you can trust the representative or your representation. Um, let's look at, for instance, let's look at how many eligible voters are in America today? Where's my pencil? So you have, this is not a definitive number. This is an estimated number, just like a definitive number. It is a general nation. The estimated voting EP in the United States is approximately 239 million people, based on the data from the 2020 or 2022 voting age population and eligibility criteria, such as citizenship and legal status. This figure represents individuals who are U.S. citizens aged 18 or older and not disqualified from voting due to factors like felony convictions, depending on state laws. Most recent estimates from 2024 projected around 244 million Americans to be eligible to vote. So there's a 239 in 2020 as of 2025, based on data from 2022. So I guess that's data from 2022, not 2025. More recent estimates from 2024 project around 244 million Americans to be eligible to vote in that year's presidential election, suggesting a slight increase in eligible voters by 2025. In the 2024 election, about 174 million people, or 73.6% of the citizen voting age population, were registered to vote, and 154 million, 65.3% cast ballots. Which that number seems high. I would highly doubt that. Let's look at. So it's saying 73% of citizens voting age populations were registered, and 154 million out of 244 million cast ballots, or 65% actually voted. 6.3% cast ballots, which I'm not sure if that actually entails the actual vote. You know what I'm saying? Because casting ballots does not mean they voted, right? Casting ballots doesn't mean they voted. Correct. Brave. Okay, so there you go. Right here, look at this. Okay. Casting a ballot means a voter has officially submitted their vote through a voting system, whether by mail, machine, or in person. However, casting a ballot does not guarantee the vote was counted correctly. So while casting ballot means the vote was submitted, it does not confirm it was recorded or counted as intended, which is very much the problem we have today here in Washington. We've been doing mail-in ballot voting for I don't know how long in Washington, but for some years now. And you can go on and check. Let's see. I'll show you what mine says. Washington vote count. I think it's vote.org is where you check your vote, your ballot, your state. So here, I think this is the right site here, vote.org. Select your state. Select my state, Washington. Screw off. They always want money from you. Track your Washington ballot. All right, I'm going to have to hold off. We're going to share this tab with you instead. Actually, let's share this tab with you so you can go look at these things. And look at this. 1824, we see the rise of different parties. Democrat. Oh, they're all Democratic Republican. But they're in different colors. Just because they're different people. So by 1824, they'd completely done away with the Federalist Party, probably because nobody wanted a federal state or a federalist government. Anyways, see what else they got there. I mean, you guys should just go on to this and check your stuff. All right, I'm gonna do my thing here. First thing. Two. Oh, what? Says the name and date of birth you provided does not match our records. If you registered to vote, please contact. If you are registered to vote, please contact your county's election office to register to vote and get access to your voter profile. Please register to vote. I am registered to vote, dude. That's insane. I just checked this the other day. I don't know why it's saying that. That is bananas. Absolutely bananas. So this is saying that I'm not. I don't know. Let's see. Washington Provisional Ballot Tracker. Let's try that again. Oh. So for some reason, I don't know why it didn't work the first time. It worked this time. So let's share this with you right here, okay? This is all they have for you. See that? Your ballot status for the general 2025. Your ballot has been accepted. Congratulations. Your ballot has been accepted and added to the tabulation for the general 2025 election. Where was it counted? Who was it counted for? All right, we're going to ask for updates here. Text to blah, 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 to 868 32 or 392 392 vote. All right. Well, so yeah, that's that. Been on here for an hour now. Your ballot and voting materials. Maybe this is. Oh, nope. Yeah, see. Your ballot and voting materials. Your ballot tracker for the general 2025 election. Or 2025. Ballot mailed. Ballot received. Ballot reviewed and processed by Cowlitz County. And ballot accepted.
To me, that's open for corruption. You know what I'm saying? It should say your vote was counted at this time by this person at this location. Okay. See my hands here. And it should show exactly which people. It should show each. It should show each vote. You know what I'm saying? For each person that I cast a vote for, it should show that. It should show, hey, boom, it was counted for this person, and then it should give you like a little graph of where that person is. I would say it would be legit. Anywho, that's that. Are you certain you want to sign out? Yes. All right, let's go back over here and just explore this a little bit. Which one do we check here? This one, no, the 1824 was the last one I checked. Let's see what this is. Oh, look at that. Now you got the separation. In 1828, you have the separation of the parties. Became Democratic National Republic or National Republican, which was, look at that, in that fucking, isn't that Washington D.C. right there? Maine or Maryland? What? You have all these rural. These would be rural areas, and at that time, these would be all the city states, right? All the big cities and whatnot, right? I guess you had some big cities down here and whatnot. And then we go back. Let's go forward to 1836. You have Democratic, no Republican, Independent, and you have the Whig Party. Should do a little dive on that. Who's the Whig Party? That was 1836, right? Yeah, 1836. So go back. 1848. Whig Party won. Democratic. Free soil. (1852) Democratic, Whig, and Free Soil. Take what from this what you will. Just sharing. 1860, Abraham Lincoln, Republican. Oh, look at that. It was a Republican who abolished slavery. And I would say the difference between these parties, Democratic and Republican, why they probably split was because one was more conservative and one was more liberal. Then you have Constitutional Union. I should be sharing this over here, I think, so that way I'm not looking over here. This is my good side, though. I'm just kidding. Just joking. Ha ha ha. And then let's see. You go into 1896. You have Republican, Democrat, Populist. 1924, you have Republican, Democrat, and Progressive. After that, strong in 1928, strong Republican win by a huge landslide. So, and I guess you should also make note that so the Depression began in 1929. I would say there's a lag for these economic peaks and valleys because you had in 29 was the Great Depression. In 1939 is when it ended. And that was under Democrat Franklin D. Roosevelt. But what I'm getting at is like how long was that economic crisis brewing? You know what I'm saying? So who's to say really what it was? I mean, obviously it's a matter of excessive spending and inflationary spending and all that and whatnot. But what was the culture like though too? You know what I'm saying? That's something you got to take into account. All right. Well, let's see. It was 1980. Republican Ronald Reagan. 1992. Who won 92? Oh, God. This guy. George Bush was the Republican. So Washington State has been Democrat since 1988. We had a brief period from 72 to 84 where we were Republican. And for the last, from 92 to, for the last 32 years, we've been under Democratic rule. And I just want to point out that whether or not it's a Democrat or Republican ruling, it really doesn't fucking matter. What matters is really what are they implementing? What systems are they implementing? What policies are they implementing? Are they giving power back to the people? Are they making it better, easier for the people to be self-sufficient, to be productive members of society? Mm-hmm. Or are they revolving their policy around reliance, independency? You know what I'm saying? So that's presidents. So it looks like it's also got Senate and House and governor's elections here. Governor interactive map. Governor interactive map. Interactive map contested 2025 governor by party. So right now we have what's his name? I guess it doesn't show. Oh yeah, let's see. Washington. Where the hell? Is Washington? Is this for? Oh, this is for 2025, 2026. What? This is forecast. consensus forecast. Anytime you hear those words, it's smoke. It's a smoke screen. Just like they said Kamala was gonna win. And Hillary was gonna win. Current governors enter active map contested. What does that mean? Okay, so Washington is contested. Right? For governor? That doesn't make sense. Because we're not voting on governor, right? In this one? Anywho, that's that. Just a little ranting and raving. I guess I could put that over here and put this over here. So then I'll actually be looking at you rather than this. The view. Now we know, huh? No joiners yet, but I didn't advertise this, so that makes sense. I don't know how the YouTube live works, whether or not people will just go on there and look for live things or what. I think that's all I'm going to talk about today, folks. I think it was a good test run. If you enjoyed, do the deed. Do the deed. Syndicate the channel. I hate to say that because that's the worst part of any one of these videos is that part. But let's be honest. It doesn't take that much effort. So, that's it. Let's go. Stop your screen. I guess I shouldn't be doing that. I'm making the whole world shake over here. Making the whole world shake over here. Enjoy. Have a good one. Have a good week. Remember, slow down. Smell the roses. Life is not that difficult for us here in America. So, it can always be worse. Ending stream. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Autobots, roll out.